This is YSM Sports Media. Want to thank you for all your love and support. Really appreciate it. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now and click the notification button for all future content.
Here with one of my favorite fighters, McCaskill. What's good?
Hey,
Jessica McCaskill.
how's everybody doing?
Oh, we good, man. This is it says live, but it's private, and then I'm going to chop it up later. All right. First question: when did you know that you were a fighter?
When did I know I was a fighter?
Yeah.
Theoretically, my whole life, been through some things and just have always had to fight my way out. And I grew up in the house with 3 older boys, so I mean, I had to run just as fast as they did, spit just as far as they did, burp as loud as they did. Just a little bit of everything. Growing up, I was trying to climb the ladder to be the best and to survive as well. So I've always known that I was a fighter, and then in the actual sense of being a boxer, probably the first time I threw on gloves, I was just like, yes, I want to do this. And I guess the real reality check is the first time you get hit, and I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Now it's my turn. So I think that's if you have that kind of mentality, you're crazy enough to do this.
Now you started late, but you've had a lot of success. Did you catch on to boxing late, or you decided to go pro late?
All of it started late. I didn't even have my first boxing class experience until I was in my mid-20s, and it was just kind of a thing that never seemed close enough to touch. It was just never anything that was dangled in front of me. I mean, I grew up with intramural sports and little league football, and I was a cheerleader. My brother was a football player, and that was what we did in the world that we lived in. And nobody was boxing. I didn't know any kids doing jiu-jitsu or judo or any kind of combat sports. If I had, that probably would have been something that I looked into, but it just was never something that seemed that close to home for me.
Now, did you grow up in St. Louis, or you just was born there and you moved to Chicago?
I was born in Hobbs, New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
And we moved when I was really young to Southern Illinois, Belleville, which is like 20 minutes away from St. Louis. And I went to SIU Edwardsville, and again, really close to St. Louis area. So I've always been in the Southern Illinois kind of Midwest region. And after college, I moved to St. Louis, big city, Obviously, I hadn't been to Chicago yet, but St. Louis, that's kind of big time and fast paced, especially compared to Belleville. So I had just been in St. Louis until I got a job opportunity in Chicago, and I just leaked, and here I am.
Yo, were you really an investment banker?
I'm in investment banking now, so
Okay.
I do kind of like a lot of regulatory reporting. So you always hear about these banks that get fined like $150,000 because their numbers are sketchy and they're not reporting the right kind of stuff. I make sure our numbers are right. And there's a lot of other projects that I work with inside the bank, and they're very supportive, and they love, a lot of like white collar communities really love some of the rugged kind of combat sports kind of stuff. So they sponsor me. RJ O'Brien sponsors me all the time, and they're a very good community to be a part of.
Yo, you're like a walking paradox, because listening to you talk and then watching you fight is two completely different things.
I hear that a lot. Yeah. It's a switch. Like we just got done working out. I'm looking crazy on the screen, but it's two different worlds, and they only connect, I think, with a special kind of person. And my coach and manager, Rick, he's in boxing as well, but he's also in the banking industry and finance industry. And it just kind of takes a certain person to be able to link the two and make them work simultaneously.
Okay. So I guess you transform when the straight backs come in?
The cornrows come in,
yeah,
and then I leave them in an extra week just so everybody at work can see them.
Okay. So right now it's Clark Kent. The straight backs, Superman. Gotcha.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I feel as though you don't get enough credit for unifying the division in 10 fights. I feel like that's overlooked.
I would agree with that. I mean, my first world title attempt was my fifth fight. I think of something like my fifth fight, and
It's Katie Taylor.
say again.
Katie Taylor?
Yeah, in my sixth fight. Yeah, Katie Taylor. And so if you look at the overall, I had maybe 25 amateur fights, and then you add in 6 fights, and it's just like I'm under 35 fights altogether, and I'm going for a world title. I think about that sometimes, and I'm just like, who else is out there that's done some stuff like that? It's insane, and it's just overlooked. Sometimes people in boxing can create a narrative, or boxing in general can take its own narrative depending on what's hot at the time. And when me and Cecilia fight, that's going to be hot and things are going to be highlighted, and someone else might be overlooked, and that's just kind of how the system works.
Okay. You're moving up in weight. What does that entail?
It just entails kind of a different regimen as far as keeping track of my weight. So usually it's okay, stay under this number, and now it's make sure you're no lower than a certain number and no higher than a certain number. So I walk around at maybe like in between 147 152. I don't get any lower than 147 because I don't need to right now. So I make sure that my hydration is on point, my meals are on point. I keep control of the weight on the other side, make sure I don't get too high, because again, I don't need to get that high. I'm not in a bulking kind of season or anything like that. Like I'm not lifting massive weights trying to gain muscle. I'm strong how I am, and we're just going to stick with that. Other than that, maybe sparring a little heavier. But that's pretty much it. Nothing really crazy. We stick to the same thing all the way through. No, it doesn't. And I've fought at 135, 140, and now 145 is the agreement.
Oh, so you're fighting the catch weight.
Yeah.
Okay, so why Cecilia Braekhus?
Why not? It was, I'm looking for history, and I'm looking for big names, and I'm looking for an opportunity to make my mark. And what better way than to spoil, Cecilia, beating any records of however many wins that she has, and what better way than to spoil her perfect record of fights? What better way than to move across different weight classes and to take all the belts? I'm not trying to pick up pennies when there's like $100 bill right there. I mean, I'm not gonna undersell myself or undervalue myself. I think it's a very capable goal to make, so I'm gonna leap for it. A lot of people didn't want to touch Katie Taylor, and they were afraid, and she called them out and said nobody wants to fight us, and we were like, we'll fight you. Like, ain't nobody over here scared. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, why not, Cecilia?
That says a lot about your mindset. Even in such a short career, you have a lot of quality opponents.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, in boxing, you once you get to a certain level, there's no reason to regress. You only get better when your competition is better. So I just feel like it's very important to keep yourself at a high level.
Do you feel like a lot of fighters take a lot of, I ain't gonna call them cherries, but a lot of soft touches?
Like what do they call them? Like warm up
Tuna.
fights, or is
Yeah.
that what you mean?
Yeah. Too many tuna.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the mentality, and this could be a very just kind of old school mentality, is you have a huge fight, and then you have the tune-ups. You get like 2 tune-ups, or I feel like there's just such an up and down wave of how things used to be done, and you don't really see that nowadays. I mean, if you think about the Cottos and the Canelos, and the De La Hoyas, for the most part, Shane Mosley, they always had pretty high level competition all the way through. They weren't taking, you know, tune-ups, you know, and I think that's how it should be.
Now, what does Cecilia bring to the table that makes this a difficult fight, besides her record?
To make it a what kind of fight?
That makes this a difficult fight.
Difficult fight.
Yeah.
Her experience. She has a lot of experience. She's seen a lot of different fighters over different time span of what boxing is, especially in the female world. It's evolved so much, and so she's seen a lot of different things. So her experience is probably the best thing that she has going for her. I think the best things that I have going for me is just not knowing what to expect. And I know my power doesn't translate over tape pretty much at all. And so that'll be just kind of something that she's not going to be ready for. We're always training. So as far as stamina and learning new things on a regular basis, like a lot of these fighters are getting old in their skill or mentally to where they do XYZ and that's all they got, you know, and I'm a young fighter with only a few amount of fights, and so I feel like I have so much more to learn. You know, I'm like a freshman in boxing. I just happen to have 2 world title belts, but I still have sophomore year, junior year, senior year to go.
That's a hell of a freshman year.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Rick has always brought in the best strength and conditioning coaches and the best sparring and put me in the best position just to learn about the business and to learn how everything should go, and it's been working out really well.
What's your prediction for the fight?
I'm gonna say knockout. I don't know what round, but I definitely say I knock out Cecilia and surprise the world.
With the lead left uppercut, you one of the only fighters that I've ever seen get that off, yo.
A lot of females lean in, and I got crazy angles, and I don't know where they came from, but you know, I see out of my peripherals very well, and sometimes it's just like, oh, there they go, and just crank that angle and get it off. You know, it's funny. There was I don't think this was the lead uppercut. I think it was the rear uppercut, but there was the first fight with Farias, October here in Chicago, and October 2018 when I got the belt, and she just was like wide open, and I think I did like a triple uppercut, and I'm walking back to the corner, and I'm looking at Rick like my chest puffed out, like, yeah, and he's like, don't throw 3 uppercuts, you throw the upper and then you come over the top. And I was like, I just kind of hung my head in shame while I hear everybody else like listening to the replay going, ooh, and I was just like, okay, over under, and I think I did it the next round, over under, under over. So
yeah, with the lead uppercut, you also got like a real awkward overhand right that it just always seems to land.
You hear that? We practice that. We practice things like that. You gotta use both hands. You gotta change levels. I couldn't tell you how many times I hear that on an everyday basis. So it makes me feel good that you said that you noticed that, because we work on stuff like that a lot. So yeah, I mean, again, with my crazy angles, in order to get the next thing off, it has to have a crazy angle too. So you're just tangled up in there so much. And if you're a very textbook kind of fighter, just kind of straight up and down, and you're not able to rumble. I came into boxing as a brawler, and then Rick taught me how to box, and then he taught me how to turn it off and on and go back and forth. So just knowing what it's like to be in the clinches like that, you know, I've created angles that are very awkward and surprising to myself.
Now, you said you came in as a brawler and Rick told you how to box. Is the pressure that you apply, is that natural, and Rick just teaches what, educated pressure?
Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I count your punches.
Yeah, the pressure's there, and then yeah, he makes it, like you said, an educated pressure. He counts our punches. He makes sure that we're not falling under a certain number. He tells us how to get closer without getting too close, and so you're not smothering your punches. Looking for the next step, cutting off the angles of the other fighters. So yeah, he definitely has made it an educated pressure, as you put it.
In your first title win against Farias, I noticed in the first couple rounds you were getting caught with the jab. She was catching you with crisp shots. at around like round 5, you started to adjust and like really making her miss, and like you was catching her with some shit.
Yeah, I tend to get, looser every round, and at about round 5, especially in that fight, that was when it was just like on point. Here we go. Everything's nice and ready to go and warmed up. So that's just showing, what it looks like, when I'm spot on.
Now against Sanchez, right? So you win the WBC, unanimous decision. Then you go ahead and you go to unify the division against Sanchez. What made you take that? What made you take a unification bout that soon?
Kind of what we talked about earlier. Um, you, your goals should always be bigger than the previous goals. And so, we're thinking, belts. So we're going to go after somebody with a belt, somebody with a worthy name, somebody that has a winning record, somebody that's actual competition, or we're going to chase money. We're going to look for a big fight that's going to give us a bunch of money, or we're looking for history. We're going to fight somebody that has, that's in the boxing Hall of Fame, and then maybe we'll get in the Hall of Fame. So there's different avenues to take. And at that time, we were thinking we're going to fight for another belt and we're going to unify. And so that's the path that we took. And she seemed to be a challenging opponent. And so we were like, let's do it.
Okay. Why did you give Farias a rematch?
Why did we give Farias a rematch? Yeah, we were obligated to do so by the contract.
Because Eddie made the fight short notice, so we had to offer her something in return.
So the original plan was to fight her when she lost, give her a rematch, and she injured something, and so she couldn't fight. So then we went ahead with the WBA fight. From there, the fight was on short notice, and so she wanted a rematch, and so we had to offer up the belts, and that's how the fight came about.
Okay. All right. So moving up the fight for fight brackets at 145, are you staying? Oh, let's just say you win. I know you don't want to look too forward. Would you stay at 147, or would you do it like a little back and forth, Floyd Mayweather-esque?
Well, there's gonna be a rematch clause in the contract as well, but there's a kind of tournament thing we have going on between Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, Cecilia, and myself, and I don't think it's in writing anywhere, but it's been said that the winners will fight the winners and the losers will fight the losers, and so there's a bit of a mix that's going on there, and so that's probably what's going to happen in the near future. But as far as staying at the weight, I mean, it just depends on what's available and good for my career at that time. We could stay, most definitely. We could bounce. We now could bounce between 3 different weight classes. So it just kind of depends on who's willing to fight and what's available for us.
Yo, you just got me excited. I like all those fights. It's fun. I want to see the Katie Taylor rematch, but I really want to see you versus Serrano. Like that's a dream
We've
for me.
talked to her camp. She's great people. We've talked to them numerous times, just kind of sharing support back and forth. And we went to see her and Heather Hardy fight in New York. But we've talked between the fighters and the managers, and that's a fight that we both of our sides don't have a problem with. We would love to put that on for the fans. Yeah, very respectfully.
How did you end up hooking up with Rick?
I came to Chicago in December 2012. There was a job opportunity, and I took it. I didn't know anybody here, and I knew that I wanted to get back into boxing. I was boxing back home, just amateur, and I wanted to continue that here. So I began this search, and I would stop into places on my runs. I would call people. I looked up different websites, and the people that I talked to face, they said, either this is not a boxing gym, it's an MMA gym, so you can kind of like work out in the corner, or they would say, well, we don't actually hit things like people here. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to need to hit somebody, so this isn't going to work. And other people through email and whatnot, they just didn't respond. And this was right around the time when Instagram started to kind of get big. And I got an Instagram account and figured out the hashtags are our filing system. You look up Chicago fighters, you're going to find any and everybody who posts about Chicago fighters. And so I started looking up all kind of hashtags, female boxing, Chicago female fights. And I found a fight card where Rick was putting on an all-female fight. And I had never seen that done ever anywhere. And I was like, I have to get on that card. And so by this time, that was November of 2013 when this fight was happening. So I found Rick in about September, about 9 months, and I emailed him and he just said, yeah, just come in, just show up. And so I did, and he was the only person to respond. So it worked out.
All right. Now, how long have you been training fighters?
I've been helping to train fighters with Rick. He's been showing me the ropes and helping me grow my career on the other side of the ropes, if you will. And so maybe a couple of years just helping him out. And I have like my coach's book for the amateurs, USA Boxing. So I'm able to corner fighters and either by myself or to help him. But I have not gotten into the full-fledged manager trainer side of it on the professional aspect of it.
Is that something that you would want to transition to after you retire?
I think it will be something I transition to. I have my feet into it right now, and I'm always looking for an opportunity to better myself and to grow my network and to just business, grow my business, and that's something that I know how to do. So why not? Why waste that?
Are you exclusively signed to Matchroom and DAZN, or are you a free agent?
No, I am signed with Warriors Boxing. They signed me first. I'm the only female boxer to ever sign with Warriors. And then I have a co-promotion agreement with Matchroom DAZN. So I'm actually, I got double dipped on. So I'm definitely not a free agent.
Okay. All right. Now, the suspension of boxing, I think it's been what, like 9 weeks?
Oh, yeah, right. So March 15th, since anything's really been popping.
Yeah, like the Shakur fight that got canceled, and that's when like everything just shut down.
Yeah.
How have you been holding up?
We're still training, and I have to keep training. When Matchroom calls you and says stay ready, and whoever's not ready is going to get overlooked, you keep training. So I've been in the gym, my weight's on point, I'm sparring. We keep everything as clean as we possibly can. We're responsible in our social distancing. I mean, the only places I really go are to the grocery store because I got to eat, and to the gym to work out. So I'm able to work remotely from my day job, and so sometimes I'll just come in here. I have a little Docuseries, No Days Off, on YouTube, on Rick's YouTube channel. So you'll see me like put up the table, set up my computer screen and my monitors, and that's how I work from the gym. And then I'm able to stop, hit the treadmill, come back, take a shower real quick, and get back to work. So it's been very convenient for me. So I'm enjoying it a lot, actually.
What made you do a docuseries?
Because I need to stay in the front of people's minds, and there's no reason to fall behind. Coronavirus is happening and quarantine is happening, but you have to be creative and make sure that people remember who you are. Remember the fact that you were supposed to fight April 17th, and remember that you're going to fight once this is all over. And so it's just something to keep in contact with fans and let them know I'm still working, letting them know I'm not out here, laying on the beach drinking beers or anything. I'm still very much hard at work, and I'm dedicated to the sport and to the fans themselves.
The thought of fighting without fans, is that something that you're going to have to get used to?
Say that again, fighting without what?
Fighting without fans.
No, I mean, sparring is essentially the same thing. I think it will actually be really intense to fight without fans. I mean, the fans bring a lot of energy, and they can also be a distraction if you're not careful. But when it's just a closed studio with you and your coach, and you can hear everything your coach is saying crisp and clear, and you're so focused and in tune, I feel like that can be deadly, very deadly, in a good way for me.
Thanks, Jess. I appreciate it. Tell everybody where to find you on social media because you're really active.
Jessica McCaskill, pretty much anywhere. I have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and then Rick has a YouTube page, Rick Ramos YouTube page. Any of his social media is also Rick Ramos. # Team McCaskill. That's where all my stuff is.
All right, man. Thank you. I'm a big fan.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
so much for having me.